Randall Johnson. I've been a screenwriter for 25 plus years now, toiling in the trenches of Hollywood, and I have the scars to prove it. Among my credits are the Doors movie, that directed by Oliver Stone and who shares credit with me. The Mask of Zorro, and a couple of things that would be found probably in the dollar bin of your local Blockbuster. Writing for me has always been a bit of a challenge and a struggle. I don't always just sit down and everything flows wonderfully, evenly, silkily through my fingers onto the keyboard and onto the page. I have to go through a kind of a process sometimes when I get a full head of steam up on a script, and it will take, it takes a while to get going. I'm a graduate of the UCLA Film School, 1982, back in the punk rock era of Los Angeles. And got my first gig shortly after film school, where I sat down. While at film school, I wrote 3 feature-length scripts that were largely and wholly uncommercial. I was advised to stick them into drawers and sit down and make an effort to write something commercial, which I did in my first summer. I was working in the mailroom of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which was a great gig because I could actually get away with doing a fair amount of writing during the day and then do some more at night. And anyway, I was able to get a script done during that time, that first summer, and it was a conscious effort to write something commercial, sort of an exploitation horror film, and it got me onto the map and the screenwriting map, and I've been fortunate to continue working steadily since then. My process is a little, I would say one of my challenges has always been procrastination. I'm not the most disciplined writer ever. And matter of fact, it takes a lot for me to get going and get a full head of steam up before I feel like I am really burning on all 8 cylinders. So my process might be something like, if I can diagram it for you, a series of concentric circles. So if I'm beginning to think about a script, I will procrastinate and sort of circle like this for quite some time, where I will make notes, do research, endlessly sort of wait for the moment to where I'm thinking, I'm not quite ready yet to really start working and working. Then, after doing a fair amount of research or whatever it is, I kind of creep in here and I start sitting at the computer, hammering out things for a couple hours a day or whatever. And then I might start getting a sense of my characters and get some dialogue, some structure going, and then I'll start really zeroing in and working on a first draft that I typically call the vomit draft, where you just get it out and try not to overthink things. And finally, after getting that vomit draft out and sifting through it and editing and stuff like that, I really hammer down and work on that first draft and make it as good as I possibly can. And that's when I'm in the saddle for, 8-10 hours a day, depending on the deadline and who's holding the gun to my head. And then, of course, after you get notes from a studio or whatever, then they need it yesterday. Then it's just all about nailing the bullseye. And that's sort of the process. And this can occur over a series of months, even over the course of a year, or it can occur in the span of several weeks if the pressure and the paycheck is big enough. But you can bypass the circuitous scenic route by simply getting in the chair and facing the blank page and writing every day for an allotted period. And that's always been the challenge for me, is just getting into that saddle and sitting down and doing it. I always think I got to wait for that moment. I'm just not quite there yet. I'm not quite in the mood. But as Dennis Palumbo says in his very good book, Writing from Within, that writing begats writing. So even though I'm not thinking that I'm not ready to go, it's actually, the car is always there and the keys are in the ignition and there is a full tank of gas, even though you don't think that's the case. The moment you sit there and sit down and start working, you'd be surprised at what starts coming to you. And that's always a continuous process for me, where a continuous process of discovery. And it's one I'm still always working with so many years into it. My attitude towards screenwriting in general, I think, is, and especially this is what I like to convey to a lot of my students, is to make your script as much of a visceral and visual experience as possible. In other words, do not write camera directions in there. Make it as much of an immediate experience for the reader as possible. In a sense, you're writing the movie, and this is your chance as a writer to be a director. So get it down on the page. Make it as much of an immersive and enriching experience as you can. There's a lot of people who just look at a screenplay and think of it as a transitional document, in the sense that it's a blueprint for the movie. Well, blueprints still are not the final product. It's still not the building, you know. And I'm saying is, like, write the building, write the movie, experience, show it to us exactly as you see it, because it'll just be so much more of an enriching experience for the reader at that point. Every time you put in camera angles, camera directions, anything like that, it takes the reader out of the experience, and it reminds the reader, reminds us that we are reading a screenplay and not watching the movie, not reading the movie. So I try to school my students, and I school myself constantly, to make it visual and forget about those camera directions. So the key is then, instead of writing a close-up, or say a medium close-up or angle on this, just simply state it. So for example, if a scene opens up and you're in the cramped offices of the Willamette writers here in Portland, and it's late at night and it's all atmosphere, and suddenly the door creaks open and a hand comes out from behind that door. If that's the way the scene opens, then describe it that way. Describe simply a dark office, very little light. The door creaks open, write lots of sound. A hand reaches in and flicks on the light. And it's our friend Bill Johnson coming in to hammer out another few lines of inspiration. You can take class after class after class if you want, and the good thing about a class is that it does give you a structure and a little bit of incentive to actually complete a project. But the bottom line is, you got to just keep hammering away.